Couple small drops.
Okay, traffic station 106 X-ray, after left down.
Oh, I level off.
10,
Final runway 9, low approach only, Crystal River.
There's a big drop.
Well, some of you may be wondering why we haven't had any videos in a while. Actually, over a year probably. Kind of goes back, there's a long story there. I'll try to make it short. If you look back in some of the videos, and one in particular that I reviewed, flying into Oshkosh actually, you'll notice that the RPMs were not holding very well as the oil pressure would get random drops. We'd get anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds, just instantaneous drops in the oil pressure, and it would come back. That was a troubling issue to have while flying. Oil pressure isn't something that you really want to mess around with, or oil issues rather. And so we spent a lot of time troubleshooting it, gauges, swapping gauges, going through a sequence of different events with listing different things and testing different situations, trying to identify and troubleshoot the issue. Switching oil filters, switching oils, just about anything else we could come up with that would be causing it, changing the front seal, verifying that the crankcase ventilation tube was open and venting, and in the end, the issue never went away. In fact, it seemed to be getting slightly worse. So in the interest of safety, we grounded the airplane, and I was all prepared to pull the rear accessory, pull the motor, pull the rear accessory case, and put a new oil pump in it, when I called our friends out at LyCon in California and talked to Ken out there, and the decision was made, just pull the motor and send it back. So with that being said, last late summer, I pulled the motor off and shipped it back to Ken, and they went through it, and they were able to verify the issue, or not necessarily the issue, but what my issue with the engine was, and said they were seeing the pressure spikes in the oil system as well. That led us on a wild goose chase into what was wrong with the airplane. They ended up taking the rear accessory case off, checking everything, checking the oil pumps, checking the sump. Couldn't come up with a good conclusion, and so they ended up splitting the crankcase. So this engine's been torn all the way down back to square one, and in fact I just looked in the crankcase bore when I put the prop on today, and it was 100% clean. So I know they took the crank out and cleaned it and did a superb job of getting it all back together for me. We had just got the motor back on Tuesday. It was in the crate, so on Wednesday I installed it, and it's been just connecting everything since then. Some of the changes we had done weren't related to the oil pressure issue, but rather other things that I wanted. This motor obviously has been modified. It's not even close to stock anymore. And as a result, we were having some fuel pressure issues at high power settings that were continuous if we're running anything, any races or anything. So I opted to have them change the rear accessory case while it was at LyCon, put a geared fuel pump on it so I can guarantee a good fuel flow. And Ken and I discussed at length some things that we wanted to do to the engine. And came to a conclusion that we're going to put the higher volume oil pump in it as well. So the oil pump that's now in it is one off of a turbocharged engine, and so I have a higher volume oil pump installed. Honestly, I haven't been able to talk to Ken at length about what they found in the engine. I just know they said they fixed it, and then it was shipped back to me. In fact, I'm still waiting on a bill. So it's a good relationship with them. They did some other things for me. I had some gammy injectors installed, and on this particular motor, or rather on this aircraft, the injectors actually reverse flow, the stock injectors. So there's a system that we designed for this airplane Basically what happens if I'm coming out of altitude, I'm right at 250 knots, which is the speed limit below 10,000 feet. The air coming in to the intake fuel servo will actually be higher than what the engine's accepting because I'm not at a high power setting, being it's a real efficient aircraft design. And the fuel will actually reverse flow out of the injectors. It'll blow out of the injectors and come across the engine. And if you look at some of the intake tubes, I don't know if the camera will pick them up, but there's actually blue staining here. And there's a little blue staining. This one might have been moved, but there's some here. And that's evidence of all that fuel that, not all, it's just little bits, but little bits of fuel that come out of those stock injectors during those high-speed descents. So this setup has been created. We put the GAM ejectors on it that are made for turbocharged airplanes, and we put this little ram air system. And what that'll do is it keeps ram air, pressurized air on that output side of that injector so that they won't reverse flow fuel. It really wasn't a big issue, but occasionally you might get a raw fuel smell from it. So the motor coming back has had multiple changes. It's had the gear case changed, or rear accessory case rather. It's had the high pressure fuel pump. It's had the injectors changed, and the oil pump changed. I didn't think that was going to be a problem, and as it turns out, the new accessory case has the oil fittings and the location's just a little bit different than what the other accessory case had. So that led me into needing new fittings and moving the fittings and changing the lines around to try to make the oil lines fit to the oil cooler in such a way that they won't bind or twist or anything while the engine rocks on the motor mounts. We also did a little modification on our lower motor mounts. I milled off a total of 13 thousandths of 30 thousandths, rather 15 thousandths on each end, and that'll lower the nose just a little bit. In theory, that should help hold the tail up just a little bit and maybe get me a little bit more speed out of it. A couple other modifications that I just made were simple beauty changes. I bought these stainless steel bolts and drilled them and put them in, just to make it a little prettier. And then also went to the stainless steel ARP stud, or nuts rather, on the exhausts. Just help keep it look nice, help keep things from corroding. That's kind of really it in a nutshell. Everything else is pretty much back to stock on it as far as its original, maybe not stock, but its original configuration from when this whole issue started. We're pretty excited to get the airplane back up and flying. I had spent the time prior to this doing the annual minus the engine, so it's basically ready to be signed off for its annual condition inspection, and should be ready to go flying right away, no problems. Just put the cowl back on. Well, we got to do a couple tests on it. We'll go ahead and run it a few times, make sure there's no fuel leaks, no oil leaks. Everything looks kosher, double check, make sure nothing's touching or loose, and probably have one or two more people walk through the hangar here and just come and inspect it for me for another set of eyes, and see if they can find anything that's going to prohibit me from doing a safe first test flight. Then we'll go and do a couple test flights. Our good friend Keith here that we shared the hangar, he shares his hangar rather with us. Probably fly chase on me, make sure that we have no oil leaks on the bottom. Highly recommend anybody doing any test flights on any airplane have a chase plane. We've saved a couple RVs in this community alone. People have taken off and the chase airplane has spotted oil coming down the bottom of the cowl and told them to get on the ground. And when they landed, they only had a quart of oil left in the airplane. So I highly recommend anytime you do any serious work like this that your first test flight should have a chase plane, just to make sure, really increase your safety, really kind of give you a good look over while you're in the air, make sure everything's doing what it's supposed to do and nothing's leaking. or coming loose. You got anything else?
No, I was just gonna say the only other thing that we did do, just in case people want to know, we did change out the prop governors.
Oh,
And we also
testing,
did
yeah.
do some of the propeller. We swapped our propeller just to make sure it wasn't our propeller. Our friend Keith over here actually had to send his propeller out. So we, since he was going to have no flying plane, we let him test ours out to make sure it wasn't. And it ran smooth as can be on his plane. So we confirmed by swapping out, 3 different prop governors?
We had 3 different prop governors, and then we put this prop. I put this prop on his airplane, and then when this prop ran really good on his airplane, I took my governor and I put it on his airplane as well, and verifying that what we weren't seeing was a governor issue where the governor's just trying to send oil to the prop to make the blades turn. For those that aren't aware how this all works, oil comes up the back, goes through the engine, and then it comes out to a port here to the governor, where the governor steps up the oil pressure. I believe it's up to like 300 or 400 pounds. Don't quote me on that. And then sends that high pressure oil through the crankshaft, up through the hub, into the hub of the prop. Now this prop is not an aerobatic prop, so it's not counterweighted. So in its natural position like this, it'll return spring-loaded back to the flatter blade pitch, very fine pitch. And then it uses oil pressure to push the piston, which will turn the blades. And then when it turns the blades, that's what gives it a coarser pitch. So the whole time you're flying, if you set the RPMs at, say, 2,500 RPMs, really what it's doing is the governor's trying to maintain the RPM rating by changing these blade angles the whole entire time. If your RPM is moving, that means that piston's moving and these blades are moving and it's not keeping up with the speeds. A lot of times it means the governor's not keeping up with the RPM changes. Obviously we swapped it out and verified that's working properly. So we believed it was an oil delivery problem or an oil foaming problem rather than a governor and prop issue. The new, one other change that was made to this engine, I just realized I was sitting here thinking about it, is the baffling system down in this oil sump. This is kind of a unique oil sump. Most airplanes don't have it. This is a cold air induction plenum, and the oil sump is right here. And most airplanes will have the induction tubes that'll go through the oil sump. This one does not. It keeps the cold air through here and the hot oil separate from that. The original oil pickup had a baffle system that was really a little bit antiquated from the original design. This particular motor was built in 1986, or manufactured rather in 1986. And so there's been some changes along the way, and one of those changes was the baffling where the oil is picked up. And so Ken at LyCon again discussed that with me, that they swapped it over, and it has actually a baffling system out of a 580 that's used, and it helps to keep the air in the engine from the crankshaft whirling around in there. It helps to keep it a little bit more separated from the oil that's in the sump, just in case that was aerating the oil as well too. So that was one of the other major changes that was put onto it. There's a few other small ones. I don't remember them all offhand. Like I said, I haven't even gotten a bill of what was all done. I just know I talked to Ken multiple times, and he's been great communicating with me. So really happy on that end.
All right, well, hopefully that gets everybody up to speed on why we have not been flying this past year. And sorry we haven't had any videos out to kind of update everybody. It's just kind of been a crazy year. Chad also took a new job, so our life has kind of been a little crazy here with all the changes, and not having a flying airplane has not helped. But we hope to get this back up in the air soon and continue with some videos. And once again, thanks for watching, and hope you guys enjoy, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right, you know, this is stop. Let's kill the engine. All right, so it's holding about 15 right now. Let's give it a little fuel pressure. Is that enough? Should be. Let's see. Anything else? All right. Where?
Our friend Mike is going to be our chase plane today. We are ready to go.